Fluffles, thank you very much. It'll show up here soon, I'm sure. And right now, we're the only one, so I will just wait for a little bit, see if anyone else books a little mini reading. Thank you, by the way. All right, this is a little bit awkward here. Let me just mark those in. Looks like it's the wrong ones. Okay. So we got some big action over here. The big. There's all sorts of things going on, but just want to point this out for a moment. This, I don't know if you can see it properly here. This soft green sweet triangle here is extremely supportive to itself. The Pluto, Uranus, Neptune thing here, effectively, what it's doing is that it's allowing the most unhealthy of unhealthiest expression of each of these to express itself with very, very little interference. And of course, that's what we're seeing on the global stage. Massive disruptions with power and money and control, obsessive, maniacal, literally out of control, berserk, lust for power, money, and control, to the point where it's all leading to war. It's already there, but... And the same with the lies, the propaganda, and everything that allows it to happen. And then the radical destabilization that goes with it all. Anyway, well, we'll come back to this in a minute. I just want to say hello to people. Hi, this is TarotLumination. It's Sunday Night Live. It's the 4th of August. It just had a Leo new moon, so that's kind of exciting in its own way. I am happy with a Leo new moon. I like it. It's personally kind of a little bit of a sweet reprieve for me, because in general a lot of the transits right now are extremely hyper challenging in a personal way, so it's nice to have something lively and just inspiring. You know, the Leo energy is very much about creative self-expression, not exactly shy, enjoying the spotlight, being in the spotlight, soaking up all the light on the stage, and reveling in the fun. It's fun. Like the 5th house. If you think of Leo, the sun rules the 5th house of creative self-expression, fun, happiness, excitement, risk-taking, business, enterprise, being like inspiring in terms of leadership, openly courageous, not worrying about what other people think of you, and simply just relying on your own awesomeness and believing in your own awesomeness. Now, of course, that can go very badly wrong. Also, this depends where it lands in your chart. I mean, you know, on the world stage where I just showed you, it is in the global 5th house of creative self-expression. But that particular point could be anywhere in your chart, and wherever that lies in your chart, no matter what sign you are, that's where you're going to have the experience and the energy, highly focused energy of the Leo new moon. Of course, right now it's super mellow because we had a couple of days coming into it with the Cancer moon. Very, very super sensitive, very anxious. And then into the new moon itself. And now in a couple of days, the energy is going to start to pick up as it crests. And in 2 weeks from now, we're going to have a full moon. That'll be on the 19th. And the moon will be in Aquarius. Sun will be in Leo. And it's going to be... I don't know, I guess we're going to light up the Aquarius theme, you know, with, it's a little bit awkward because Pluto is there, kind of on the 0 degree mark. Anyway, we'll talk about that. So, earlier today, I posted a little mini video. It's only about 30 minutes long. And it was a follow-up to a video I made yesterday. A video I made yesterday was all about China, specifically about China, using some very, very super simplified astrology for China. And I thought, well, you know, to be fair, I got to do the same thing for the United States, because these are very, very dominant energy fields on the global arena right now. I mean, everything's always dominant, but in terms of the themes we talk about here, like power and money and control, China is, you know, right out, here's China, okay. 1.4 billion people living in basically a slave camp that's owned and operated by about couple of 100,000 elites, and at the top of the pile is the Chinese Communist Party, ruled by Mr. Ping. And it is an absolute communist dictatorship. Absolute. So it's a classic example of absolute power. What's the expression? Absolute power. Anyway, forget about it. And so there's China doing its thing, okay? It's in a very, 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 very difficult spot astrologically, and that's what I did my video all about. Same thing with the United States, okay, over here. United States, of course, is in its own convulsions astrologically. These are monumental historical convulsions on a global scale, and what is happening here in the United States is affecting the rest of the world, whether we like it or not, like shockwaves that go across the whole of the world, okay? Thank you, Fluffles. That's the expression. Absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And that's exactly what we're seeing over here. And the thing about that dynamic is that it's been around forever, ever since people were people, whether it was a little small tribe of Native Americans, whether it was Egyptian Empire, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the American Empire, the Chinese Empire, the British Empire, whatever it is. Once people get a taste for power, it kind of takes over everything in your metabolism. It's like lust, raw, uncontrollable lust. Once you taste it, it's very difficult to switch off the lust that comes with it. So there's tremendous responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. And the way the United States was, let's say, defined 250 years ago with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, you know, round about then, it's on the understanding that they don't want to play the game of absolute power corrupts absolutely, because the founders and the pioneers and the colonists over here, the settlers, they had already had enough of that from Europe, especially in England, where they had all these kings and queens for centuries and centuries. And the settlers in America just got sick of it. So they decided, you know what? Revolution, man. We're going to flip this whole thing upside down. Now it's all about we, the people, and we own our lives, our identities, our rights. They are bestowed upon us by God, not by a king or an emperor or a queen or a monarch or a tyrant. It's bestowed by God. God is above us. And so that's what they decreed. They wrote it into their operating system, their business manual, their, code of conduct. Call it the Constitution. And they knew that in drafting the Constitution, what they were basically doing is a big fat middle finger to all the tyrannical people across the world, all the emperors, the tyrants, the dictators. And that held very true, very strong for a long time. But over a 250-year period, the original founders knew that eventually the system would be corrupted because it was such a radical, revolutionary declaration, unheard of before in history, that they knew that once the elected officials who were elected into power to do the work and the bidding of the people on behalf of the people, where the federal government is the servant of the people instead of the people being the servant of the federal government, the founders knew that eventually the people that they elected into office to do the bidding would get a taste of power. And once they had that, eventually the rot would creep in. The lust became insatiable, and it grew and it grew and it grew. One of the first biggest landmarks was the formation of the United States Federal Reserve Bank, 1913. That put a huge mark on America, the American people, and the rest of the world financially. It sent a message across the whole world that the financial system is changing across the whole world. America is taking over everything. We run everything. And it's all based on debt. And that comes out of your wallet, and it comes to us, the Fed. Okay? Of course, they didn't tell you that. They dressed it up as, hey, we're here to serve you. You know, we're here to just make sure everything is stable. Our main mandates are to make sure unemployment is not too unstable, and the currency is stable, and we act as a reserve for the federal government when times are unstable. We're just, think of us as a good old-fashioned mom and pop local high street bank, and we care about our neighborhood and our community. It was all a pack of lies. It's exactly the opposite. It was the formation of the most powerful institution in the world. That's where it is today, the U.S. Fed. Next came World War I, a direct consequence, a banker's war, and then boom-bust cycles, which is part of the feeding mechanism for the financial elites, and eventually World War II, where they had refined and perfected more and more advanced mechanisms and strategies for implementing their effectively a demonic agenda, packaged as we're going to save the world. We're going to stabilize the world. We're here for the world. The US dollar is sacred. It is sacrosanct. It's based on gold. Screw that. They got rid of the gold standard, and they basically gave themselves permission to just, we can do whatever we want. People seem to believe us, so let's do it. We're just going to issue currency. We're going to print money, literally very fancy pieces of paper, tell everybody that this is worth a lot in its weight in gold, and everyone has to believe us because there's no other option anymore. And so that worked. It worked, and the Fed went, oh my God, this is fantastic. They actually believe our BS. And so astronomical amounts of currency were created through the process of debt. And that triggered this extreme hyper acceleration in terms of lust for power, money, and control over here in Washington. And that's when the federal government exploded into this cancerous tumor. The very first stages of the cancer. And there was a massive explosion in government spending, like roads, highways, bridges, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, What are all the other programs? Programs for this, Department of the Environment, Department of Health, Department of Ministry of this, Department of that, CIA, FBI. The federal government grew astronomically. And how do they fund that? Well, taxes. Kerblam. There you go. And they just do it by skimming. Just like how the banks skim your money. They do it by skimming. So they just skim enough tax out of your wallet so that you feel like, oh, it's worth it. You know, everybody has to pay taxes. It's part of the community. We're here to contribute. We benefit from the federal government and the local and state governments. And it's only fair that we contribute. And then they contribute back to us, the people. Not realizing that basically they're being taxed on top of taxes, on top of taxes, on top of taxes, on top of taxes, to the point where we are today, where the people are taxed out, tapped out. But do they care? Does the Fed care? No, not really. They're thinking of new ways to expand their power, money, and control more than ever before. And they've been working on it since the late 60s, early 70s. And their big problem is, how are we going to implement the Great Takeover? Because at the moment we have all these nations, countries with borders, boundaries, cultures, nationalism, sovereignty. That sucks. We need a complete, monolithic, one-world government, totalitarian monster that controls everything. Problem is, some other people figured out that that's what they want too. Oh. So America figured that out, and then the World Economic Forum figured it out, and the United Nations figured it out, and then China figured it out. Like, oh, you know, we want the same. Wait a minute. So there's a competition right now across the world for who's actually going to take over the world. China is doing a pretty good job of showing us all how to do it. They've already got CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. They have complete totalitarianism in their country. The people themselves are powerless. They have no rights at all. They don't have any bankruptcy protection laws, nothing. They're not allowed to have free speech. There's no rights to bear arms. There's no privilege. There's no rights to illegal search and seizure. There's no rights to due process in a court of law. Nothing. Those people have absolutely nothing. That's perfect. That's how it's supposed to be done. Even Mr. Schwab over here at the WEF worships the CCP, because the CCP has already shown the rest of the world how to be the ultimate tyrannical dictator. And so now the World Economic Forum is trying to do that itself. So it's a battle. On the other hand, the elites over here are already the top dog, and they want to stay there. And they realize that there's massive competition from China and the WEF. So that's World War III in itself. The other layer of World War III is the currency war that is conducted 24/7, 365 in the global foreign exchange currency markets. At the moment, the United States is the #1 expert at that thing, and they are intending to stay that way. The big threat, of course, is Bitcoin. So we'll see where that all goes. The other big threat is, well, it's not a threat. What it is for them is, like over here in Europe, they've already figured it out in Europe. They're going to force the central bank digital currencies on Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, because those countries are already heavily infected by communism. So it's not too hard to take it to the absolute limit. So in other words, the communist elites, the three main tribes, Actually, there's another one. It's actually the Middle East over here. There's another tribe. They're sort of like big, it's basically like a club of gangsters. They're all trying to figure out who's going to be the top gangster. And so there's inter-gang warfare, trying to figure out who's on the top and how that all works. And in the meantime, we the people are going to go like, what the hell is going on here? Where did our Constitution go? Where is my power? Where's my rights? Where's my sovereignty? Where's all my money? Why am I paying so much more for gasoline and so much more for food and so much more for accommodation and shelter, housing, so much more for transportation, so much more for borrowing? There's something wrong. Well, people feel it in the wallet. In America, people are feeling it in their wallet, but a lot of people haven't figured out the connection between what's happening in their wallet and the bad news of what's happening in their wallet relative to what's happening into Washington. But they're waking up. They're sort of figuring it out. It's very, very disturbing. It's very frightening. It's very interesting. I'm sort of watching it from a distance like a movie. In my own way, of course, I'm as vulnerable as anyone else, but also in my own way, I'm a little bit insulated because of the way I live, my attitudes, my beliefs, and the way I conduct my life. I have a little more protection of my money, my privacy, and myself compared to a lot of people. I really enjoy the Constitution that we still have. I like the First Amendment, free speech. I like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, which we have to have in order to protect the First Amendment. I like the fact that I can call out my rights if there's a problem with illegal search and seizure. I like knowing that I can stand up for myself in a court of law. All these kinds of things. Anyway, it's all in jeopardy right now because the elites over here are trying to destroy this thing. Because right now, all across the world, this thing here, this thing is the very, very last and biggest obstacle to globalized communism. One world order, new world order. It's this thing. And no other country has what we have. A lot of countries are starting to wish that they have what we have, but they don't. So we're going to enter a new Pluto cycle for the next 250 years where I believe some of the concepts and principles established here 250 years ago are going to be disseminated across the world over the next 250 years as more and more people decide, wait a minute, everything's getting polarized. Pluto, Pluto, Pluto. It's brutal. It's descending into a war, an existential war. Good. So, let me think of it this way. Basically, it's good versus evil. Tyranny versus freedom. That's it. Pluto is very, very blunt, unambiguous, hyper extreme, and there's really not a lot of middle ground. So that's what people are discovering right now, and that's why we're seeing a lot of this polarization across the world where billions of people are starting to coalesce into this binary type of energy field where all the powers that be that lead the populations that live under tyranny, they're all coalescing on one side. And the people who want freedom are coalescing on another side. We're seeing the early stages of the battlefield being laid out over here in the Middle East, over here in Eastern Europe, over here in the basically Asian Pacific region. Those are the hot zones. There's also staggering amounts of brutal, violent, horrific war going on here in Africa. Also, of course, pretty much the whole of Central and South America is in a state of deep, deep turbulence and upheaval. All of it's happening with different nuances in different locations, different cultures, different languages. But it's the same thing. Ultimately, it's this polarization. Tyranny versus freedom. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. Hello, Love Driver. Yeah, Australia is in a very sad position right now, kind of like Canada. They look like they're, constitutional republics, democracies, but they have been subverted. China has heavily infected Australia and Canada and New Zealand and Great Britain, England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. You've probably seen stories about all this in the news. I mean, what's happening in England right now is a classic example. I'm a little scared to talk about the subjects. By the way, I just want to let you guys know, my channel has now been crushed beyond oblivion. I've been looking and I've been trying to get inside of all the what's called the metrics from YouTube, the algorithms, trying to find ways to salvage the channel. And I'm sad to say that it's not possible anymore. They've tightened up the algorithm even harder and harder and harder than ever before. You can't see it from where you are, but I sure feel it over here. And so, because it shows up in the numbers, let's put it that way. So you're probably going to start to notice some changes. Those changes are not coincidental. It's actually very much aligned with the Leo new moon. New starts and new beginnings in the region, in the arena of freedom of expression, creative self-expression. Leo at its finest. Things are going to be changing here. I'm basically moving into new territory, unexplored. I've been pushing out feelers to figure out what to do and how to do it, but I'm going to be learning as I go, and I'm going to try and salvage what I can and reconstitute and reformat everything. And I'm doing it basically in the flow of the planets. I'm not trying to fight anything here. I'm just accepting and dealing with reality. One of the ways to look at it, for example, is in mainstream media in the United States. You've probably noticed in the world of communications in the United States, things are becoming hyper polarized, super ultra polarized to what they call the mainstream media. In other words, the TV networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNBC, MSNBC, Reuters, Associated Press, all of that, the New York Times, all of those, which are hyper affiliated with the extreme left. And it's basically all of them have turned into a propaganda machine rather than a news source. On the other side, some people have figured it out and they've polarized themselves. And oh, by the way, over here on with the mainstream media, we can also include Google, Alphabet, Meta, Facebook, and what are the other ones? Anyways, those guys. In contrast, what's happening is a polarization in the other direction, which is very much more in alignment with freedom of speech. And we're noticing that on the X platform because Elon Musk has Mars in Aquarius. He is a freedom fighter, okay? He's not afraid of being completely outrageous and rebellious and tipping things upside down in order to fight for freedom. So that's what he's done. And that was, remember, everybody remembers that when Twitter was realized to be a complete squalid sewer of hyper left-wing propaganda. Now it's turned into X, and it's much more neutral, and it's a platform where a lot of people are feeling a lot safer for self-expression. And the problem with the mainstream media and the media elites is that they don't like that stuff because it's a challenge to their propaganda. The worst thing for propaganda is truth. Then there's Truth Social itself. It's exploding in size and value. That was a little media platform created by a guy called Devin Nunes in order to give a little opportunity for Mr. DJT to speak openly without censorship on the MSM. So Truth Social has grown exponentially, and it's going to continue to grow exponentially because it's reaching a very, very wide audience that is enjoying an environment where the United States Constitution is respected, revered. So that's happening. It's interesting. It's very hard to do that across the rest of the world. The other platforms that are a very, 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 very big problem for the propagandists is TikTok. It's like too big to control. It's so big, so powerful, it's so addictive, and the algorithms are just so active that they've tried to shut it down. The elites, have tried to shut it down, but they can't. And so a lot of people who want like alternative sources or alternative perspectives, they go to places like X and TikTok and Telegram and Discord and Substack. Where else do they go? Rumble, Truth Social, OAN, RSBN, BitChute, because they just simply don't trust mainstream media anymore, and you can't. You really can't trust. I'm a perfect example. When I started my channel, they thought I was like a little YouTube darling, and they really helped to boost me. But very, very quickly, things turned very, very bad and went the other direction, and there's no turning it back. So that's how that works. Anyway, let me go to the charts. I want to share a few things here. So, this is my astrodoodle for today. Over here is the Leo new moon. Right now, tonight, the moon and sun are very, very close. The moon has already moved past the new moon, and it's heading slowly, gently towards Virgo in the next day or so. So that moon over here on the cusp and in Virgo is going to add to this big fat red line, which is pointing very, very harshly on the Gemini energy over here, Jupiter and Mars, which is pointing extremely harshly on Saturn in Pisces. So this is a massive, massive, ugly, ugly square, which in my interpretation, I'm just keeping it very simple. Since we are literally on the verge of Mercury retrograde, it's actually technically it's tomorrow. What I feel is going to happen is in America, we're going to see tremendous friction in the media between the mainstream elites and propagandists versus the free speech crowd, which I just described. The pressure is going to be intense, and it's going to be calling out and exposing anything and everything that's fake. Doesn't matter what it is or who it is, because there's karmic justice. Saturn in Pisces retrograde I mean, Saturn in Pisces already is a big problem for all the propagandists, the thieves, the liars, the traitors, the treasonous, the criminals, especially the most elite criminals of all, because they've been hiding behind a veil of deception for the last 14 years. But the veil has been lifted. There's a lot of very famous people who live behind the veil, like the Gateses and the Faucis and the FBI, the CIA, CDC, the DHS, DOA. A lot of United States American federal government stuff lives behind a veil of deception. That veil has very beautifully been opened up for us, and they can't close the veil. They're trying so hard, the elites are trying so hard to close the veil, but the veil is open for all of us to see. And some of it it's just so disgusting, it's almost hard to believe. It really is truly disgusting when you talk about the evil, pure evil. There's no other word for it. And it involves things with very young people who are treated in very ugly ways by some of the elites. It involves a classic scenario of what's happening in the Olympics right now. It involves the electoral process inside America right now. It involves all the big government agencies, Department of this, that, and how they are essentially part of the massive cancerous tumor that I described much earlier in the video. That tumor that started, I believe, in 1913 grew to be a monster tumor around 1945, around World War II, FDR, which was the establishment of the massive federal government. And then it just grew from there to the point where the United States federal government is the biggest employer in the country. And that, flip that around, that's very, very bad. That's exactly the opposite of what was declared and constituted. So how do you dismantle all that? Well, there are people who are going to do whatever they can to dismantle that thing and reconstitute the Constitution. But you can't do that with a couple of votes and a few switches and a few speeches. It's going to take many years. Basically, it's going to be the Pluto and Aquarius journey. Over the next 20 years, there's going to be tumultuous revolution all across the world, including America, especially America, as we reconstitute the Constitution. Because there's enough people in America who are not ready, willing, or able to let this dissolve. This is not going to go away. The elites are doing everything they can right now live to kill this, to destroy this thing. All right? So there is an energy which is opposing that. It's natural balance. It's perfectly natural. It's perfectly normal to be expected. Anyway, this big fat red pile of ink here is an indication that in the world of media, Gemini, third house, the bright lights of Jupiter and Mars are pointing very fiercely onto Saturn in Pisces retrograde, enhanced by Venus, Mercury, and for a little while it's going to be the Moon as well, through here as well. So these are acting together to not only pull back the veil, to expose the veil, but to keep the veil open so that the light of perception, the light of truth, can shine on here, because it's like sunlight. What is the sunlight? It's like bleach. It cures things. So when eventually when the sun comes into Virgo over here, right at the tippy end, there's going to be a massive exposure of sunlight onto the Neptune area here. And we're going to really, I mean, that's, weeks and weeks and weeks ahead. We're going to see more and more examples of the squalor that's going on. One storyline that I am hoping is going to become more and more exposed is the massive, catastrophic, failed attempt to eliminate this guy Donald. It was now deemed obviously a deep state event, a last-ditch effort to remove the obstacle, and it backfired. It backfired really, really badly. And now there's damage control. The elites are doing extreme damage control using the opportunity energies that they have here right now while they can to try and recreate a narrative using the mainstream media to make it look like, oh, it was just some radical kid who went berserk. Nope, not. Anyway, that's all going to be, I'm hoping it's going to be revealed. One of the problems we have in America right now, you might have noticed, is that we have this incredibly large, powerful government, but people have been calling it out and saying there's a lot of talk, and bills and squabbles and fierce votes and everything, but nothing actually happens. There's no accountability. That's where things get very, very difficult. All right, so let's get on with things. I got to check. So give me a second here. I want to do I've got to reconfigure everything so we can actually do a reading. Let's have a look. So give me a second, okay? Oh, let's have a look. Okay, there's something wrong with the computers over here. Not quite sure what. Oh, it's okay. Let's have a look here. Alright, so there are very few people here tonight, and we've only got one reading booked, so That's that. Fluffles, you're not second or third, you're first and last. There you go. All right, so let me shuffle up a little bit here and I'll check some notes. I see there's some notes there. I'm going to read them in a minute. Just give me a second, okay, Fluffles? Alrighty, okay, let's have a look. I'm just going to check in with you for a second. Oh, where am I? Let's have a look. Where am I? Over here. Okay. Just got to do some clicking around to see where I am. Alright, so let's have a look. I'm going to look through the chat over here. Hello, Diana. Thanks for coming to visit. So Fluffles is visiting, Love Driver's visiting. It seems to be a very, very quiet evening. It's understandable. We've got a new moon. A lot of times with new moons, things get very, very like insular, like bears that want to hibernate, animals that just want to just curl up in little balls, people who just want to keep themselves to themselves, munch potato chips and watch TV, and no thinking. No thinking allowed, no feeling allowed, because sometimes it takes a lot to recover from the previous lunar cycle. So we all need a kind of little bit of a lull, a little bit of a break. So that's kind of where we are now. And soon the energy is going to pick up again as the moon goes through its ascendance. Until 2 weeks from now we have a full moon. But anyway, until then, we still have each other hanging out. All right, let's have a look. Fluffles, hang on. Okay, Fluffles says over here, I'm super stressed about work. Oh, okay. That deal never closed. Oh, sucky. I don't know the client. I don't know what the client is doing. Okay. I'm kind of backing off unless he reaches out to me. My question is, what does it look like with making money soon? Okay. Fair enough, understandable. All right, let's see what we can do here. So you have to remember, okay, Fluffles, this is for everybody, and it affects all of us differently. But let me find it. Where is my ephemeris? Where on earth did my oh, here it is. Give me a second. You remember this, everybody? This is what I use for making my charts, okay? So August is a hyper stressful month in terms of, I would call it, chaos and upheaval. Like especially like with Mercury right now, it's one of the most obvious ones. Think about communications of all kinds, business deals, business communications. We have to be very, very careful. Bill Clinton said it best. You've got to be very careful of what you say, who you say it to, when you say it, why you say it, where you say it, and how you say it. He learned that the hard way because of his little shenanigans many years ago. Words can come back to bite you. Documents, language, media, communications. So Mercury retrograde is happening right in the middle of August. And there are multiple other layers of stress on top of the Mercury retrograde, okay, that have already been happening. They're going to continue to happen. So when you layer the Mercury on top of it, it's kind of like crises and stresses overload. Think of anything and everything you can that can go wrong with communications. Phone calls, emails, word of mouth, letters in the mail, statements, billing, friends and family, self with an institution, institution with self. It's all open to misinterpretation, confusion, disruption. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And then we're left with like, oh, now we know what the problem is. How do we fix it? Sometimes it's not fixable. But we'll find out as we live through it, because we're all going to live through it one way or another. Actually, I did a video the other day specifically just for all the stress points in August. Okay? So you might want to watch that little video. Now, for Fluffles, again, I'm not doing, this is not a personal astrology reading. I know we've worked together before, and I've probably got charts stored here and there, but I'm not going to access any of that stuff because that gets very deep, involved, and complex. We're just going to do the TarotLumination situational spread. It's a tiny but powerful little tool for kind of getting to the core of an issue. Remember also another thing, that the whole world of money and business right now is in a state of absolute chaos and tumult. Right from the very, very tippity top of the United States Federal Reserve Bank and the banking system, all the way down to your, I don't know, food stamp card, your benefits card, or something like that, or your salary, your paycheck, whatever it is, or your savings or your retirement. There's tremendous upheaval and chaos, and that includes communications. You might have noticed recently that Warren Buffett is selling off astronomical amounts of stock in Bank of America. Bank of America is one of his biggest holdings. Billions and billions and billions. Basically, Warren Buffett is cashing out. The only reason he would cash out is because he smells a potential problem where if he doesn't cash out now, the value of his shares in Bank of America may go from here to here very quickly in a way that cannot be recovered. CYA, cover your ass, basically, is what's happening. And that's happening in the global markets, the American markets, and everybody's unstable financially. Crystal Pickett, new to the channel. Hello, Crystal Pickett. Welcome to the channel. Well, we do questions here. I do little mini live readings on the tarot using tarot cards. I've been doing it for years. I've done thousands of readings, thousands and thousands of readings, and you're welcome. And we do it by donation. I'm going to show you the process, so please bear with me, Fluffles. Crystal. This is my website. This is TarotLumination.com. If you want a mini reading, you can make a little donation. Go to TarotLumination.com on some sort of device, you know, a tablet, a phone, another tab on your computer, whatever it might be. Go to TarotLumination.com, click the donate page, then click the donate button. That will open up a payment processor, just like online shopping. Scroll down until you can choose to pay with a debit or credit card. Do that, fill it out. It takes a minute, a couple of minutes, and then kaboom. You get your mini reading, okay? Anyway. So, thank you for asking. things sometimes get very strange on this channel. Sometimes we have evenings where it's really packed, and 2/3 of the visitors are psychic readers, clients, mediums, tarot card readers, casino card readers, remote energy healers, Reiki healers, yogis, all sorts. We've had them all. So, anyway. So, thank you for asking, Crystal. I'd be more than honored to do a little mini reading for you. If you want to, you can sit back and watch and see what happens, because I'm going to read for Fluffles right now. Fluffles is the only one who's actually booked into here, so you're it, Fluffles. Let's have a look. Okay, here we go. Cards are nicely shuffled, but I'm going to go again to the very last second so that you are a witness, Fluffles. Let's bless this deck, bless every single card. I don't do reversals. I'm not going to do any oracles and nothing mysterious or mystical or anything. It's just a mini tarot reading. We trust in the divine nature of what we're doing here. Even though it doesn't seem to make any sense, we seem to have a portal to the divine, to the healing power of love. And the healing power of love expresses itself in infinite ways. Can you get me? Yes, Gregory. And you would be the last one. Let's, yeah, Gregory, I can do a little mini reading for you. Yes, yes, please. So, Fluffles, bless the deck. Don't be scared. Just take a few deep breaths. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up to the portals of the healing power of love. We're going to ask for the healing power of love to fill our bodies, minds, hearts, and souls from up above. Own the energy. Allow your invisible friends, ask your angels, your archangels, your invisible friends, your invisible pets, your loved ones from the beyond who love you and they want what's best for you. And they're to help you stabilize and be in a very serene, pure state in order to receive messages most effectively. In other words, there's like nothing good about this, nothing bad about it. It just is what it is. Now, in your notes, you said it sounds like you're pretty stressed because obviously you want to be successful and you're used to being successful. You have been extremely successful. But like many people today, a lot of people are figuring like, wow, things are very, very unpredictable, unstable. You think one thing's going to happen, then something else happens. Anyway, here we go. Shuffle to the very last second. Let's bless this deck, bless every single card, bless the computer, the computers, the monitors, all the softwares, the hardware, the cameras, the microphones, the lighting, the platform itself, even YouTube. Thank you very much for allowing us to do this. All right. You probably noticed I've been very, let's say, restrained with some of my language regarding the things that I normally like to talk about because I don't want to make things any worse than they are already. So, Fluffles, let's just see what happens, okay? Now, for Crystal, I will explain. This is your typical tarot deck, and the imagery is well established. I think it's divine. I think it's divine inspiration. And the spread, I have 3 core spreads. My situational spread, my relationship spread, and my spirit heart spread. And all we use here on the live streams is just the mini situational spread. It's like a diagnostic tool. Like when you have a problem with a car and the lights are blinking on your dashboard, you go to places where they fix cars and you plug it in to their diagnostic tool and they look at the screens and it says, oh, you've got a problem with your transmission shifter. Oh, you've got a problem with the catalytic converter. Oh, you've got a problem with your whatever it might be, oxygen sensors. You've got to reveal it to heal it. You can't fix it unless you know what the problem is. So that's what this is all about. What's the situation? How are we going to fix it? How are we going to deal with it? Let's have a look. All right, Fluffles, you're up. All right, here's the situation. Here's the challenges. And here's how we're going to handle it. Now we're going to look at external influences. Of course, I almost always default to the planet. Sometimes it's sort of personal, but we'll see. So we got the Page of Wands here. To me, this is almost like a message of hope, where it's like saying, hey, 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 Fluffles, calm down, calm down. It almost doesn't matter what happens. The most important thing is to just get up and keep going. There's no way trying to, let's say, rely on the past, lean on the past, or expect the past to recreate itself spontaneously, because essentially the past is the past. What counts now is the present moment, maintaining a super healthy, positive attitude on the understanding that you really don't know everything about what's going on out there, but you keep going anyway. The Page of Wands is like, it's almost like an indicator that communications are very important in this situation. And you know how energy feeds on itself, like loops, negative feedback loops, positive feedback loops? Obviously, because you're not getting the expected outcome that you want right now, the way that you feel that you deserve, given your past history of awesome success, and it's not quite going that way, it would make you feel hyper anxious, hyper stressful, like, what am I doing wrong? What have I done wrong? Did I say something? Did I write something? Are the terms unacceptable? Is it me? Is it someone else? What's going on? Well, the little Page of Wands is trying to indicate it's not really you, Fluffles. It's just the environment. We're in a hyper unstable environment. It's going to become even more unstable. The best thing to do right now is understand that and accept that. And this is going to sound very, very cliched, okay, Fluffles? Very, very cliched. Lower your expectations. Allow things to unfold. Allow nature to express itself. Allow the other parties involved to be who they are. Like you said, you're not chasing the client at the moment. You're basically waiting. Maybe the client will come back to you, maybe not. Who knows? But you stay hopeful anyway. You just keep going. Try not to take it personally. Try not to be too heavily overwhelmed by the fear of, oh my God, what happens if this doesn't work? Oh, jeez. Okay? Because that fear feeds on itself. All right? All right, let's have a look. What's the situation? Okay, Judgment. So this is very much about liberation and freedom and being released from. It makes me feel like this is very associated with the new moon, the Leo new moon. Like it would be so awesome to give yourself permission to be released from the expectations that you have flowing in your blood, given your natural affinity towards success. And how do you do that? How do you just spontaneously, bammo, release yourself and give yourself the permission, like, you know what? Wouldn't that be just amazing if you could just look at the world around you like, screw it. Who gives a I'm a free person. I want to be free. I refuse to be shackled by expectations. I know I have very high expectations. I have very high standards. I have been very successful. I deserve the best. There's no reason why that shouldn't happen. However, we're all learning as we go. We're going through extremely severe astrological crises points for all of us right now, you included. So who on earth knows what's happening with your clients and some of the other parties involved? The situation right now is about liberty, freedom, and it looks to me like the desire for release. It's almost like you are being very, very tough on yourself. You're judging yourself extremely severely because you're not meeting the standards that you have set or expected or that you're used to. And so, like on the flip side, you might be screaming and craving freedom and liberty from your own shadow, so to speak. Let's have a look. What are the challenges here? Okay, so with the Chariot, it makes me feel like right now you really, really, really deep down wish that you had absolute control and mastery over the situation, where you could literally, let's say, take charge. Basically come out with a few choice perfect words that would resonate perfectly with the client, and the client would automatically, graciously fall into alignment with what you know would be a very successful outcome for yourself and for the client. And then the big question is like, why is that not happening? Why am I not able to take charge of everything that needs to be corralled, of all the energy fields that need to connect and work effectively in order for a successful outcome? Damn it, damn it, damn it. How am I not the master of my own life, my destiny, my outcome? Why do I feel that I do not have full control of my vehicle of life? My body, my mind, my heart and soul. What is it that is out there that is making me feel as though like, how am I supposed to keep this thing on the road? How am I supposed to stay on path? How am I supposed to control the steering wheel, the gas pedal, and the brakes, and the transmission, and all of that stuff? It's not right. There's something really out of whack here, okay? So let's have a look. Moving forward, yeah, in some ways, you're a little bit of your own worst enemy right now, okay? And you are susceptible to your own shadow right now. And the shadow, my feeling is like the shadow energy is enormous. It's engulfing everything. And the shadow energy could be like a combination of multiple ingredients from all the astrological stresses that are triggering fear. So, once you understand that, it's almost like, okay. It's like time, for example. If in terms of business, you would expect a certain outcome in a certain time frame, having expended a certain amount of energy with certain clients and people regarding certain subjects and expectations, and then kapoof, you get the magic successful outcome. So why is that not happening now, right now? Because I'm already an expert at this stuff. I know what I'm doing. I'm the best at this stuff, and yet I'm not getting the success of this deal with this client the way it's supposed to be working. What's wrong with me? How come I can't? Okay, so how are we going to deal with this going forward? Because you don't want to be there like in a state of fear where you're like you know, when you're driving a car or something where, you know, you're just raging at yourself, like turning corners too fast, braking too hard, accelerating too hard, changing lanes erratically because the emotions and the feeling are, you don't have full ownership. You do not have full ownership of the vehicle of life right now. And so, what are we going to do about this? Oh boy. Well, so with the Nine of Cups, this is going to sound like a very, very cheesy, corny escape path that TarotLumination is going to use as an excuse to get out of this reading, like using a simple bumper sticker. Okay? Okay, so I'm just going to say, so this is the Nine of Cups. This is the wish card by some people. This is a card of happiness, joy, attaining and receiving and owning basically pretty much all the ingredients that constitute happiness in life. So, what's the message? Well, my feeling, it's kind of all about reconditioning, reprogramming the brain, you know, neuro-linguistic programming, you know, words, language. Because, you know, in our brains, all day, all night, even when we're dreaming, there's this constant chatter. Like if you speak English, for example, that's my only language. If like my conversation is English. When I'm talking to myself out loud, or when I'm conversing with myself inside my brain, or when I'm having conversations in dreamland when I'm asleep, or when I'm conversing and communicating with the world out there, or my friends and family and loved ones. That is like a phenomenon that goes up here, and just in a few words, you can say the wrong thing at the wrong time, at the wrong place, to the wrong people, for the wrong reasons. And all of a sudden, everything turns to SHIT. And that's when you realize, like, wait a minute, I'm not in full control, ownership of my brain, my language. So what do? You have to reprogram yourself. I am. And that's kind of what I do. It sounds very stupid and moronic and simplistic, but there are people who teach this stuff. Neuro-linguistic programming, course 1, course 2, course 3, course 4, 5, 6, and 7. For only $3,333.33, I will reprogram your brain. Join my program now. Or you can do it the easy way, the cheap way, which is what I do. I just do this to myself probably, I don't know how many times a day. I recite to myself like a bumper sticker, like a post-it note on my forehead. I'm a very lucky person. I'm a very wealthy person. I'm a very happy person. I'm a very blessed person. And I say it over and over again. And what it does, sometimes momentarily, sometimes for hours on end, it puts me in that frame of mind where those words resonate in here, like, wow, I'm a very lucky person. I'm a very wealthy person. I'm a very happy person. I'm a very blessed person. You say it enough times, you start to believe it. That's how propaganda works. Propaganda works by people who look like they're very convincing and truthful, are telling you a whole pile of BS, but if they keep telling it to you enough, and they back it up with words and images that make it sound real, then it's real. For a lot of people in America, the propaganda is real. In other words, perception is reality. Reality is perception. So all I'm suggesting is with the Nine of Cups, you still are the owner of your life. The Chariot card, that's still you. And so how are you going to take ownership, take back ownership of your life, your being, your core, yourself? You have to do it by decree. You have to understand when you use the healing power of words, you can use that in a beneficial way. Some people are very self-destructive with words, like, I'm a freaking loser. I hate this stuff. I'm such a screw up. I did this. I did that wrong. The deal's all screwed up. I must have done something wrong. Where have I gone wrong? Guess what? That energy feeds on itself. Negative breeds negative. So you have to shock it out of your system and recant it to yourself. You could say it. I say I'm a very lucky man, very wealthy man, happy man, a blessed man. But you could say I'm a very lucky woman, I'm a very blessed woman, I'm a very happy woman, I'm a very so on and so on. You can make up your own version of it. But I like to keep it very short, succinct, and very, very powerful and very repetitive. And it's like propaganda on my own brain. And then you realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm Fluffles. I'm freaking awesome. I'm actually very lucky in my own way. I'm very wealthy in my own way. I'm actually, hey, in some ways, I'm actually pretty happy in my own way. And when I look around it, compared to the rest of the world, I'm actually very blessed in my own way. What does that translate into? Oh, happiness. That's like, I'm blessed. That's the 9 of Cups. Okay? Does that make sense? So there's your mini reading, Fluffles, okay? I hope that made sense. We're going to move on. I got to do a bit of homework here behind the scenes. Give me a second. I got to catch up here. Okay. Right. So I got a reading for. I'm just organizing myself. It's a one-man show, so you kind of have to bear with me while I do all this stuff. All right, next up, we have a reading for Mr. Ross. Mr. Gregory Ross, welcome back to the show. First of all, let's clear the decks. Hello, mindful mind. Hello there, mindful mind. It sounds like you're into mindfulness. Maybe you've got one of those mindfulness apps on your phone. Anyway, welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out. We do this by donation. You can donate directly through your PayPal if you got one, or you can go over here. Excuse me, over here. Let's have a look. Where am I? I lost it. You see, I screwed up. Mercury retrograde. There we go. Yeah, you can't get more spot on than that. I want a Mercury retrograde reading. Okie dokie. So let's alright, so let's clear the decks, and then we're going to get set up and ready for a live mini reading for Mr. Oh my god, I just screwed up. Just screwed up big time. Doopy-doopy-doo. Let me just make sure that's all uprights. Uprights. Yep. And uprights. Yep. Okie dokie. Alright, thank you, Fluffles. I'm glad you got something out of it. Alright, let's have a look here. Just a little bit more, okay, Gregory, and we're there. I love this deck. I've lost count long ago. 1,000 readings. And it's still like brand new. It's pristine. It's amazing. How and why, I have no idea, because it gets really beat up. All right, Gregory, you are up. So let's just do a quick reminder in the background. This is what the astrology looks like for today. And over here, there's little Mercury in Virgo. It's flipping retrograde tomorrow. It's going to be there for 3 weeks, retrograding, going back into Leo and then back into Virgo. All right? So it's going to affect the whole world, but forewarned is what's the expression? Forewarned is forearmed. So you don't have to be 100% victim. At least you can mitigate some of the potential problems by knowing in advance. All right, let's have a look. So let's see, Mindful Mind, in case you're... So Mindful Mind, this is where we get all our information. This is the core background of all of it. This is an ephemeris for the planets. And as you can see, it's a very stressful month. There you go. All right. So, what kind of messages do we have here tonight for Mr. Ross regarding Mercury retrograde? It's interesting. It's a very, to me it's in terms of the sacred geometry, I think it's a very interesting month, at least from the point of view of the ephemeris. It's like 2 monster retrogrades over here and another one here, okay? I didn't mark Saturn because it just becomes such a mess of orange goop. But we have Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto all retrograde right now. So if you think things are tricky with Mercury retrograde, think about Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. The issues are much deeper, much more profound, much harder to resolve. Okay? But it's interesting, if you look very, very closely, it's hard to see, but Mercury retrograde is happening right in the middle of the month. And right in the very, very middle of the month, there are some multiple stress points. Here, and so on. And that's right in the middle of the retrograde, which is also when Mercury flips retrograde back into Leo. And then it's going to go direct again. So, man, I guess I could say, just go with the flow, man, you know. But that sounds pretty derelict and irresponsible. It's better to understand that things are highly, highly volatile, and it's going to be hard to navigate for everybody. So just do the best we can. Let's have a look. So what kind of messages do we have for Mr. Ross tonight regarding Mercury retrograde? He's going to be dealing with it in his own way, just like we're all going to be dealing with it in our own ways. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle things going forward, specifically to Mercury retrograde. Let's have a look. What's the external influences here? Of course, we already know the planets, but we've got the Four of Swords here. So this is very much about healing. And Virgo itself is one of the signs about healing. Virgo is, if you think of Virgo energy, the 6th house, okay, let me go over here. Hold on. So we've got a little bit of Virgo energy happening already. Venus is in Virgo, just about, and Mercury's in Virgo, just about. And this is the 6th house. This is the Virgo vibe over here. Let me see if I can do it like that. That's the Virgo vibe over here. That's the slice of the pizza, 30 degrees. And it's about, let's say, taking care of what has to be taken care of in order to create order out of all the mess that's in the world out there. It could be described as the energy of the housekeeper, the energy of the nurse, the energy of the research scientist trying to find out what's the problem with all the dirt and the poison and the pollution and how are we going to fix it. Virgo is very, very practical energy. In other words, how are we going to find practical solutions to the issues that are so hard to figure out and clean up. That's the Virgo world. And a lot of times with Virgo, there's not a lot of thanks. A lot of time the Virgo energy is kind of taken by granted from the other people around, you know. Virgo basically does what has to be done because it has to be done. How many people do you know who love to do their laundry? How many people do you know who love to balance their books, balance their checkbook, vacuum their house, do the dishes, do all the cleaning, the plumbing, the electrics, the maintenance, all the stuff that's basically thankless, often with very little reward. Unless, of course, you're a professional housekeeper or a professional auto mechanic, professional nurse or something. A lot of times that's taken for granted. So in some ways, it's like a thankless situation. But on the broader scale, Virgo is very much about soothing, taking practical steps to provide soothing, let's say treatments, soothing environments, strategies, plans, actions for healing, whatever might need to be healed. And so with the Four of Swords here, Gregory, my feeling is that whether you like it or know it or not, you need a little bit of self-healing right now, and that might not be the thing that you want to hear. We've worked together a lot. Most of the people here know you very well, and they understand that you've been under a lot of pressure. You're going through very profound, transformational, deep, profound life changes at the moment, and you naturally put yourself under a tremendous amount of pressure to serve. Sometimes serving for little or no reward, sometimes serving and providing justice and accountability for people who really need it, who don't have a voice for themselves, and then being kicked around and treated like a piece of dog doo-doo as a way of thank you. And that takes a toll after the while. And my feeling is you're at a point in life right now where it's okay to take a little bit of the pressure off of yourself to be in the fight, in the ring, as the lawman, as the guy, as the fighter who has to go after justice where justice has been denied. And start to understand that, life, we live in chapters and things change. Sometimes very, very subtly, sometimes very slowly, sometimes extremely suddenly and rapidly. What I'm sensing here with the Four of Swords is looking at this as a time period. This is going to go on. The retrograde is going to go along here for 3 weeks and then back up to here. Okay? This to me looks like it's a time of healing where it might be advantageous for you personally to deliberately withdraw from like a very active outward life expression and become a little bit more subdued, private, sequestered, being very kind to yourself, whatever it might be, going for walks in nature, being with your cuddle buddy, being with your animals, chilling, relaxing, allowing yourself to heal. I'm going to share something so that you understand how serious this is. Everyone's built differently. I was always considered very hyperactive. I always put huge expectations on myself, expended enormous amounts of energy, sometimes for very little result or sometimes catastrophic outcomes. And you end up very bitter at the end of it. There was a period of my life, I was much younger, where I worked extremely hard doing something I really loved doing, and it was my job. I was actually a ceramic craft potter, making handmade bowls, casseroles, goblets, plates. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I loved doing it. But the pay was extremely low and it was physically very, very demanding. And I had to bicycle back and forth to work. And in the end, I became depleted. And I didn't realize I had depleted myself until I was depleted. And I kind of collapsed on myself. And I was one of those young, very young people who basically had to go back home to mommy and daddy because I had nowhere else to hide. And I went back to my mom and dad and said, do you mind if I stay here for a while? I've kind of burned out. And they were like, well, you kind of left home already, didn't you? You know? Well, okay, sure, you know, just help out when you can. Do what you can. You know, we have a lot to take care of here. And so that's what I did. But my pattern was, I didn't know I was so depleted, so exhausted, because I was constantly in the flow of energy, putting energy out there in service in terms of work. Virgo energy is very much about work and service, which is what I did extremely well. It made me feel really good as well, even though I was not rewarded accordingly. But what happened was I would go to sleep, and on the very first night, I just blacked out, and I didn't wake up till like 13 and a half hours later. And then I started wandering around, eating food, taking a break, having a cup of coffee, hanging out with my mom and dad. What can I do? I'll do a bit of this, bit of that. And then I would go to bed early, and then I'd fall asleep for 13 and a half hours again. And this went on for 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, I was sleeping 13 hours a night. And I realized, wow, I'm actually healing. My mom and dad are allowing me to heal myself at the house. They basically just ignored me, and my dad was basically like, just let him be who he is, let him do what he's got to do. It's not hurting anything or anybody. He obviously needs rest. So that's what happened. I'm trying to draw a parallel here, Gregory, between yourself and myself. I have a feeling what the Four of Swords is saying right now very loudly is that you've reached a similar point in your life where you might not even know you've got to that point, but you really do need a period of rest and healing. And this is a period of rest and healing. Think of all the retrogrades. So what's the situation itself during this time? Okay, Nine of Wands. It's very, very simple. It's because you have put yourself, for many years, many years, you've put yourself under tremendous pressure. And there's no one to blame but you. Left to your own devices, you would continue to do this because that's your natural operating system. But it's almost like the message is very loud here. You have to grow out of this and allow yourself a certain period of time where you understand and accept that you have reached this certain chapter in life, and it's okay to just, not answer the phone. Forget answering some of the emails. Forget, having to grind all day, every day. And just in some ways, sometimes it's better to just let things fall apart. Whatever is unable to endure, just let it fall apart and turn into fertilizer and decay and rot, and then turn into rich new ingredients for a new life ahead. With the Pluto, the Neptune, and the Saturn, and the Mercury all retrograde, there's no point in trying to fight it. If things are going to basically go and then they sort of decompose and then they recompose and reconstitute, just how forests operate. A tree grows in the forest and eventually it dies off and creates its own fertilizer for the next generation, and so on and so on. It's very much about Pluto at that point. The Scorpio energy of birth, life, death. Birth, life, death. Birth, life, death. Repeat, repeat, repeat. So what are the challenges here? Let's have a look. Okay, so with the Page of Wands here, my feeling is that you never really considered or thought that this was an actual scenario that you would ever have to encounter or deal with. And it almost kind of doesn't make sense to you. However, I feel it also indicates that it's like, oh man, I wish I knew about this in advance. Then I wouldn't be scared and shaking about, oh my God, what's going to happen in August with the Mercury retrograde? How much SHIT is going to happen to me now? How much worse can things get? Oh no, oh no, oh no. Instead, understanding like, oh, well, maybe things are exactly the way they should be, considering that that's how I conduct my life. That's how I've conducted my life. I've taken on so many challenges and I've risen to each one, but it can be very depleting. After a while, like, how much more can I handle, you know? And then you realize, you know, if you wanted to, you can force yourself to keep going, and then you would collapse from exhaustion. But what I think the Page of Wands is saying here, it's better to understand that, oh, I am actually the cause of my own demise. Who would have known? I never thought about it that way. How dumb can I possibly be? How naive? How innocent? Why didn't I? Duh. Oh, okay, so now that we understand the situation, what are we going to do about it going forward? Yoo-hoo! Okay, to me here, it looks like embrace the situation. Since you have never been here before, none of us have been here before, there are very few astrological situations that equate to the intensity of crisis, chaos, insanity that we're dealing with right now. These kind of astrological events only happen every few hundred years or every 1,000 years or so, but we happen to be at one right now. Okay? Just the Pluto cycle alone, 250 years. Just the Neptune cycle alone, 174, 178, whatever it is. You know, just those alone. Those affect us at the very, very, very depths of our soul. It's very hard to integrate that into waking consciousness, but it's happening for us. It's not happening to us. We're here to heal and grow and evolve. And so my feeling with the Fool card is, you know what? It makes me feel like, it's almost like, I don't know how else to express this, Gregory, except like this. Hold on. Okay, let's say I'm Gregory Ross, and I've had my mini reading, and it's the end of the day, and I kind of go, yeah, I know what you're saying, TL. And you look in the mirror, and you kind of go, shit, man, he's right. I brought all of this on myself. It's me. It's my life. I'm my own worst enemy. I have worked myself to death. I've worked myself in a corner. I'm a hero. I'm a fighter. I'm a lawman. I take things to the max. I go into the ring. I fight to the death. Wow. Maybe it's time for a break. Doesn't make any sense to me, because you're that guy. You like to be in the ring. You're a fighter. You love to represent justice, truth, integrity, especially for those who don't have a voice. It's like you're a martyr for those who don't have that. They don't have that voice. But you need a break. And you're just not used to this. And so it's just like, what am I supposed to do, TL? And then TL says basically, just freaking give up. Take a freaking break. Don't worry about what happens, where it goes. Just when you wake up and you think, you know what, I think I'm going to go for a walk. Just go for a walk. You know what? I'm going to do that thing I never did before that I always wished I could. And then you just go and do it. And, you know, it's just like, oh. In other words, don't give yourself a plan. Give yourself time. This doesn't have to be induced. You don't have to enhance it with, you know, intoxicants of any kind. You can just float. Float, like allow your brain to sort of unwind, unhinge, meditate, climb up a mountain and sit there and stare at the horizon and then look around like, well, that's boring now. It's 4 minutes I did that. I'm going to go back and do something else now. Maybe go to an art gallery, look at some paintings. Go wandering around a thrift store. Call up somebody and have weird conversations. My feeling is with the Four of Swords here, it's really about kind of hunkering down, being your own best friend, and allowing yourself to indulge on self-healing in very, 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 very benign, gentle ways. Very much in the way that I described for what happened to myself. Where you just allow yourself to just I'm going to get up. I'm going to walk to the refrigerator. I'm going to get a sandwich. I had a sandwich. I'm going to go back to bed. And you wake up again. You know what? I think I'm going to watch some YouTube. Oh, I did that. Now I'm going to go back to bed again. Oh, I'm going to go for a walk. Oh, I did that. That's kind of what I'm suggesting, okay? That's what I'm feeling for you. And you just allow it to happen. Let it unfold. Don't make a plan. Thank you, Gregory. Thank you so much. There's your retrograde mini reading. Well, specifically Mercury retrograde, but it's, let's say, all the retrogrades. Why not? Alrighty, so that's how that works. I'm just going to share something. So I'm going to clear this up in a little bit. I just want to share something. Dear Mindful Mind, and who was the other person? Crystal Pickett. And folks, okay. I had very different expectations for the channel. I'm just going to share this so you understand what I'm dealing with right now and why it's frustrating. Because I am going to go through my own transformations just as if I was giving myself a mini reading. Like some of you know, there's part of me that's very, very bitter and resentful about what's happened to my channel, and it's unfixable. And so I carry that like, I'm like that the whole time. But I don't like being that way. I like to be free. I like to be free of my own self-condemnation. So, like there's this one astrologer, he's very successful. He's got a huge number of followers. He makes astronomical amounts of money. He doesn't do anything much different to what we do here. But it worked out differently for him. I think he's been around about 10 years. I've been around 7 or 8. Anyway, a couple of other astrologers I know personally. They started years before I did. when there were very few astrologers and tarot readers on YouTube. I came in a little bit later and I was still kind of a newbie, but now YouTube is saturated. And my channel went in a very different direction, and it kind of went like that. And what I was kind of hoping is that it would be a channel that would grow really, really big and generate lots of YouTube revenue. And I could just give out lots of freebies. Like, here's a free reading for you. Oh, you want a mini reading? Oh, you want a mini reading? What's your question? What's your question? And it didn't work out at all. In fact, it's just the opposite. The only revenue that comes in here is by donations. And like, if you've got a huge channel and all your money is coming through the YouTube revenue from advertising, then you don't have to ask for donations. When you ask for donations, it makes me feel like I'm begging and having to squeeze money out of people, and I don't like that feeling. So I don't know how to get around that at a moment, but right now, that's what I'm left with. I don't know what's going to happen down the road. I mean, if you have a successful channel, I mean, I have extremely low expectations and costs of living because I've been very frugal my whole life. And there was a period for a short while where I was earning my living from the channel. That was it. And I felt amazing until the channel was effectively destroyed. I think it was November 18th, 2018. It's never recovered. But anyway, it sounds like I'm being mean when I say, well, please donate, please donate. It's just that it's a lot of time and work to do this stuff, and I feel like we're on the cutting edge and we offer something of great value, and so I have to ask even though I don't want to. I just wanted to clear that, okay, folks? All right, I'm going to wrap it up now, say good night, and wish you all a super week, a super new moon, and we'll be back again soon. So... Thanks for hanging out with me. This is my little community. I love you guys.